She thought her marriage was unbreakable until a secret DNA test shattered everything. When Rachel discovered her husband doubted their baby was his, betrayal was only the beginning. But nothing could prepare her for the family secret that would destroy the man she loved and force her to question everything she believed about trust, blood, and forgiveness. How far can one lie ripple through a family? And can love ever survive the truth? Watch until the end for a revelation no one could have seen coming. My name is Rachel, and up until a few weeks ago, I thought I had a happy little family. James and I have been married for 5 years. We've been through a lot, especially the miscarriage 2 years ago. That loss nearly shattered us. When I got pregnant again, we were cautious, almost scared to feel joy too soon. But when Lily was born, healthy and perfect, everything changed. She became the center of our universe. Our rainbow after the storm. James cried when he held her. I remember his exact words, "I didn't know I could love someone this much." We settled into parenthood. The sleepless nights, the soft lullabies, the tiny socks disappearing into the laundry abyss. And through all of it, James was wonderful, attentive, loving, hands-on. Until his parents started visiting more. Carol, his mother, was always a bit cold. The kind of woman who brings store-bought cookies in a tin to seem homemade. She'd never liked me much, too emotional, too loud, too different. But once Lily arrived, the comments started. "She's got such dark hair for a baby," she said once, eyeing me. "Must be from your side." Then came, "None of the family knows, is it?" and James had straight hair as a baby. His father, Tom, was more subtle, but I remember him smirking and saying, "Well, guess recessive genes can surprise you." At first, I laughed it off. Babies change so much. And Lily had James's eyes warm, hazel, and round. But it wasn't just the remarks. It was the way Carol looked at Lily like she was studying a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. I didn't know she was planting doubts in James's head. One afternoon, James told me he was taking Lily to the pediatrician. I was sick with a stomach bug and grateful for the break. He was gone longer than expected, but when he came back, he said the doctor had been running behind. I didn't think anything of it. Weeks passed. Then one day, I was organizing the shelf in our home office, trying to find the warranty for the baby monitor, when I knocked over a stack of books. A crisp white envelope slipped out from behind a hardcover, DNA Diagnostics Center. My stomach dropped. My first thought was panic. Why would James order a paternity test? My hands trembled as I opened it. I wish I could say I hesitated, but I didn't. Inside, the document was clear. Probability of paternity, 0%. I read it 3 times, blinking, trying to force the words to change. They didn't. My chest caved in. I sat down on the carpet, the paper shaking in my hands. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My world began to slide sideways. This had to be a mistake. James had tested our daughter. Our 6-month-old daughter. And according to this paper, he wasn't her biological father. Only. I never cheated. Not once. Not emotionally. Not physically. I had no secrets. No flings. No drunken regrets. So how was this possible? The betrayal of the test was already cutting deep, but what gutted me even more was the idea that James had done this behind my back. Silently. Secretly. Like he'd been waiting to catch me in a lie I never told. I sat there for a long time, staring at the paper, hearing the echo of Carol's voice in my head. She doesn't look like one of us. When James walked through the door that evening, I was sitting at the dining table with the envelope in front of me. I didn't yell. I didn't throw it at him. I just looked up and said, "What is this?" He froze. His face drained of color like a man caught mid-lie, and for a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, he would tell me it was all a joke. A misunderstanding. Some kind of twisted mistake. Instead, he exhaled and sat down across from me. "I was going to tell you," he muttered. "That you had our daughter tested without telling me?" My voice shook. Behind my back? He wouldn't meet my eyes. I just needed to know, he said, as if that justified it. You got pregnant right after I got back from that business trip. And Lily, she looks nothing like me. Nothing like my family. I stood up so fast the chair scraped backward. You think I cheated on you? James rubbed his face like he was the one under attack. Carol said some things. She noticed how different Lily looks. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I wanted to scream. Carol. Of course it was Carol. You listened to your mother over me? My voice cracked. You really believed I would do that to you? I didn't say I believed it, he snapped. I couldn't stop wondering. It got in my head. I stared at him, stunned. So you went and got a secret DNA test instead of talking to me? You let her poison your mind and then you turned on me? He stood, pacing. What was I supposed to do, Rachel? Just pretend I wasn't having doubts? I needed the truth. The truth? I hissed. The truth is I never cheated. The truth is you let your mother, your cold, manipulative mother, make you doubt your wife. After everything we've been through. Lily started crying in the other room. James flinched like the sound hurt him. I stormed past him, scooped her up, and held her tight. Her tiny hand curled around my shirt, and I felt tears burn in my eyes. She's ours. She's mine. And you think she's a mistake. Later that night, after the yelling died down and the silence settled thick between us, I asked him something I never thought I'd need to say. Do you even love her? He looked at me, broken. Of course I do. But now. I don't know what to think. The tests say she's not mine. She is yours, I said through clenched teeth. Maybe not by some lab test, but she is your daughter. James didn't answer. He just sat there, staring at the floor. The next morning, I packed a bag and took Lily to my sister's house. I needed space. I needed clarity. But most of all, I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. You didn't cheat, my sister said firmly, rocking Lily on her hip. And something is wrong with those test results. That word echoed in my head. Wrong. I stared at the copy of the paternity test I'd brought with me. It felt so final, so cold, but maybe something was off. I made an appointment with my OBGYN. When I handed her the test results, she studied them for a long time. Her brow furrowed. Then she looked up at me and said something I'll never forget. Rachel. I think you're telling the truth. And this test might not be lying, but it might not be telling the whole story either. I sat there on the crinkly paper of the exam table, trying to keep it together while my OBGYN flipped through the paternity report again. Dr. Mendez had been with me through the miscarriage and through Lily's birth. She was warm, but no nonsense, the kind of person whose silence meant she was thinking hard, not doubting you. Finally, she looked up. This test is from a reputable lab, she said. It's not fake. But there's something odd. What do you mean? She tapped the page. The test says James isn't the biological father. But if you're certain there was no other possible father, then that only leaves one option: either the test was mislabeled, or James's DNA doesn't match Lily's for a reason unrelated to infidelity. I blinked at her. What kind of reason? Rachel, has James ever taken a full genetic panel? Health markers, ancestry, anything like that? No. I don't think so. Why? She gave me a tight, careful smile. I'm going to say something that might sound strange, but it's worth considering. If James's DNA doesn't match Lily's, and you're sure she's his biologically, then maybe James isn't who he thinks he is. It hit me like a wave crashing over my chest. You think he might have been adopted? It happens more often than people think, she said gently. Sometimes parents never tell their children. And with DNA testing becoming more common, it's been uncovering secrets no one expected. I sat back, breathless. Adopted? James had no idea. He always talked about how much he looked like his dad, how he inherited Tom's laugh, Carol's stubbornness. But now that I really thought about it, I wasn't sure he resembled either of them all that much. I just never questioned it. I need to talk to him, I whispered. Just go slow, Dr. Mendez advised. He's probably as confused and hurt as you are. If he doesn't know, this could completely upend his identity. I drove straight back to the house, heart pounding, barely remembering to breathe. James answered the door looking like he hadn't slept. He opened his mouth to speak, but I held up the test result. We need to talk. Not about me. About you. He looked confused. What are you talking about? I stepped inside and shut the door. James, what if the reason the test says Lily isn't your daughter is because your DNA doesn't match your own parents? He froze. Like his brain couldn't even process the sentence. What? Have you ever taken a genetic test? Ever questioned where you came from? No. I don't need to. I know where I came from. Carol and Tom. I cut him off. Did they ever show you a birth certificate? Photos from the hospital? Anything? His mouth opened, then closed again. That silence told me everything. You said Carol was the one who started all this, I said, my voice trembling. What if she was trying to hide something she's kept buried for decades? James looked like he'd been sucker punched. No. No way. They wouldn't do that to me. They would have told me. Would they? We sat on the couch in silence for a long time. I could almost see it happening in real time, his mind peeling back layers he'd never questioned, moments that now suddenly looked different under this new light. He ran a hand through his hair and whispered, I need to talk to them. James called his parents that night. I sat next to him on the couch, holding Lily while she dozed in my arms, her little chest rising and falling like none of this chaos existed. When Carol answered, her voice was clipped, polished. James, it's late. Is everything all right? He didn't ease into it. I need to ask you something, and I want a straight answer. Was I adopted? The silence on the other end was instant and telling. Carol, he said again, voice rising, was I adopted? There was a rustle. Then Tom's voice came on the line. Son, where is this coming from? Just answer me. I could hear the strain, the fear in Tom's voice even through the speaker. James, listen, you are our son in every way that matters. Oh my God, James said, standing up. You lied to me my whole life. Both of you. James, please, Carol's voice came back on. Cold as ice. This isn't something we wanted to tell you over the phone. But you were never going to tell me at all, were you? No response. He ended the call without another word and just stood there, staring at the floor. His hands were shaking. They've lied to me, my entire life, he whispered. We didn't talk much that night. He didn't cry. Didn't scream. He just sat at the kitchen table staring at a baby photo of himself that now felt like someone else's child. The next morning, he asked if I would come with him to their house. I hesitated, but agreed. I needed to hear it too. When we walked in, Carol was standing in the foyer, arms folded, posture stiff. Tom looked like he hadn't slept. James didn't waste time. I need to know everything. From the beginning. Carol's lips thinned. It doesn't matter, James. Yes. It does. Tom finally spoke. You were adopted at birth. A closed adoption. We couldn't have children. We wanted you so badly, and when you came, it was like everything made sense. So we decided we wouldn't tell you. We didn't want you to feel different. But I am different, James snapped. You let me believe I was your biological child for 34 years. You let me grow up thinking I was a part of your bloodline. And when I questioned my own daughter's paternity, you didn't say a word. Carol's jaw tightened. Because it was your responsibility to know the truth about your marriage. That girl, she motioned vaguely in Lily's direction, doesn't look anything like you. She doesn't have to look like me. James shouted. She's my daughter. Just like I was yours. Carol flinched. Tom stepped in. James. I wanted to tell you so many times. But your mother, she was afraid. She said love was all that mattered. Carol turned away, defensive. We gave you everything. We are your parents. No, James said. You're the people who raised me. And I'll never stop being grateful. But parents don't build relationships on lies. We left without another word. In the car, James was silent again. But this time it wasn't numb silence. It was devastation, pure and unfiltered. I can't believe I accused you, he finally said, voice cracking. You were right. Something was wrong, just not the way I thought. I wanted to feel relief. I wanted to scream, I told you so. But instead, I just said, now what? He looked at Lily in the rearview mirror, then at me. I don't know. But I need to fix what I broke. Somehow. The next few days were a blur of quiet tension and heavy air. James barely spoke unless it was to Lily. He'd hold her close, kiss her forehead, and whisper things I wasn't supposed to hear. I'm sorry, you didn't deserve this, you're mine, no matter what. His voice cracked every time. I didn't move back in. I needed time. Not because he'd been adopted, not because of the DNA test results, but because when it came down to it, James hadn't trusted me. He'd gone behind my back. He'd chosen to believe doubt and whispers over the life we'd built together. And that cut deeper than anything. I stayed with my sister, who was furious on my behalf. He humiliated you, she said. He treated you like a criminal. And for what? Mommy dearest told him your baby looked too brown? She's not even that dark, I whispered. Lily just has olive skin and curly hair. Just like my grandma. That's what racism does, my sister muttered. It hides behind concern and observations. That woman didn't see a baby. She saw something she couldn't claim. Carol tried to contact us once. She sent a long email with no subject line. I read it alone at 2 a.m. It was filled with vague apologies. Not for the adoption lie. Not for planting doubts in her son's mind. Just for how things have unfolded. She wrote, we only did what we thought was best for James. Families keep secrets for protection, and maybe I was wrong, but I still believe biology doesn't define parenthood. I didn't respond. James read it the next day and deleted it without a word. That night, he showed up at my sister's house with a small notebook in his hand. He looked like he hadn't slept again. I wrote everything down, he said quietly. Not just what happened. How I felt. How I realized what I did to you. How ashamed I am. He handed me the notebook. You don't have to read it now. Or ever. But I had to say it. I held it in my hands, heavy with the weight of his guilt. He was trying, in his own broken way. We talked on the porch, while Lily napped inside. The wind was soft, and for the first time in weeks, so were our voices. I didn't want to doubt you, he said. But once the thought got into my head, I couldn't shake it. And that's on me. Not you. I know, I whispered. But it's hard to forget how fast you believed her over me. He nodded, shame written across every line of his face. I let my mother dictate my instincts. And I nearly lost everything. We sat in silence for a while before he finally asked, can I still be her father, even if I didn't act like one? I looked at him. Really looked at him. He wasn't the same man who'd demanded answers with accusation in his eyes. He was a man undone rebuilding, not for show, but because the truth had stripped him bare. You've always been her father, I said. But if you want to stay in our lives, you have to earn back what you broke. He nodded. I will. Whatever it takes. The weeks after the truth unraveled felt like living in a half-remembered dream, unreal and sharp at the same time. I moved through my sister's house on autopilot, the routines of bottles and lullabies keeping me anchored while everything else felt adrift. James called, texted, left voicemails I sometimes listened to but never answered. He never blamed me for leaving. If anything, his messages were full of apologies, each one quieter and rawer than the last. "I'm so sorry," he'd say, "for doubting you. For letting my mother's voice get louder than yours." He told me he was seeing a counselor. At first, I didn't care. Then I wondered if it was for me or just to make the pain stop. Part of me wanted to yell, "You don't get to be the victim now," but another part of me remembered the lost, frightened look on his face when he realized his whole life had been built on a lie. At night, when the house was quiet, I would lie awake staring at Lily sleeping in her crib beside me. Sometimes I reached over and touched her curls, thinking of how a single comment, "She doesn't look like us," had become the wedge that split us open. I felt a wild, protective anger toward Carol, and a hollow ache for James, for the childhood and identity stolen from him. One afternoon, James sent me a photo of an old shoebox, filled with baby things and faded papers. He'd found his adoption documents, tucked away in the attic, buried under decades of dust and denial. "I wish I'd known," he wrote. "I wish I could go back and do everything differently. My sister told me, 'You owe him nothing, Rachel. Not after what he put you through.' I knew she was right, but grief doesn't obey logic. Grief makes you miss things you shouldn't, hope for things you know are gone. I wanted my old life back, the one where trust came easily, where Lily was simply ours and love was enough." Therapy helped. My counselor listened without judgment as I poured out the mess, how I hated James for believing the worst, how I hated myself for still loving him, how I resented Carol for poisoning everything she touched. We talked about boundaries, forgiveness, and how sometimes moving forward means leaving the past unresolved. A month passed. James asked to see Lily, just for an afternoon in the park. I said yes, more for her than for him. Watching him push her on the swing, I saw a man unraveling and rebuilding at the same time. He didn't talk about getting back together. He just thanked me for letting him be there. As we packed up, he really looked at me, and said, "I know I broke something in you. In us. I'm going to keep working on myself, no matter what you decide." For the first time, his words didn't sound like a plea. They sounded like a promise. I walked home with Lily, unsure what I wanted, but finally certain of one thing: trust could never be handed back, but maybe over time it could be earned. I moved back home at the end of the second month, but it didn't feel like a reunion. It felt like two survivors quietly clearing the wreckage together, room by room. James and I set boundaries. We spoke honestly, even when it hurt. I told him outright I wasn't ready to call us healed, or even whole. We could share space, share Lily's bedtime giggles, but trust would have to grow back slow and stubborn, like grass through concrete. Carol tried to reach out again, this time through Tom. He called to ask if we'd reconsider letting her visit Lily just for a short while, for closure. I told him, calm but firm, that until Carol could own her actions and the damage they caused, she would not see Lily. I heard her crying in the background, but for once, I didn't feel sorry. James started coming home from therapy with tear-stained eyes but a steadier voice. He spoke about grief for the parents he'd lost, not by death, but by the truth. About the awkward phone calls with Tom, the silence that always followed when adoption came up. He wondered aloud who he was, who he might have been. I listened, sometimes holding his hand, sometimes not. There were still hard moments. Nights where I woke up from dreams of losing Lily, or James, or both. Mornings when I looked at him and saw the man who doubted me. But then Lily would crawl between us, babbling data, with all the certainty in the world, and some of the bitterness melted. Just a little. We started family counseling. It wasn't magic, but it was movement. There were apologies, but more importantly, there was accountability. James never asked me to get over it. He sat with my pain, even when it made him uncomfortable. The truth was, the damage Carol did ran through generations, not just in what she hid, but in what she taught her son about trust, control, and shame. But James was trying, every single day, to choose differently. On Lily's first birthday, I baked a cake from scratch and decorated the living room with rainbows. James cried when we sang to her. Later, he took my hand and whispered, "Thank you for letting me try to fix what I broke." We're not perfect. Some days, we're barely okay. But there's a new honesty between us, a fragile thing we both protect. I'm not sure where we'll end up. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe something quieter, like respect, or simply co-parenting done right. But I do know this: secrets rot families from the inside out. It wasn't the DNA that made us a family. It was every sleepless night, every apology, every day we chose each other even after everything fell apart. As for Carol, she sends cards sometimes. I keep them in a drawer, unopened. Some doors need to stay closed. Lily will grow up knowing the truth about her father, her grandmother, and how sometimes the hardest thing is to choose honesty when lies feel safer. And me? I'm learning to trust again, slowly, painfully, honestly. For Lily. For myself. For the woman I'm becoming, stronger and sadder and somehow, still hopeful.